I'm gonna be honest with you. Today, I was actually getting ready to start working on the first division I was going to do for the series for the off season and whatnot. When suddenly, I check and see that the Steelers have inquired about Trevor Lawrence, and then all of Steelers Twitter just blows up in flames again every single off season. And then a few hours later, Aaron Rodgers is set to be released by the Jets. And then guess what? Steelers Twitter once again blows up even more. It every single time, folks. Every single time. Some people are not going to like me for what I have to say in this episode, but I think it needs to be said. So yeah, here we go. Here we go. So Steelers have inquired about Trevor Lawrence, as I just said, as well as Aaron Rodgers. Okay, Travis Kelce is contemplating retirement. Kellen Moore has now become the official head coach for the New Orleans Saints, and James Cook wants the bag. Okay, all of this and more on the 67th episode of the Football Junkies podcast. Okay, I am your host with the most. Okay, I am your GM. Is not on a team right now, but don't you worry about it. Okay, I am your chief bag roll. Anything and everything related to the bag. Okay, I am the man with the plan. The 30 mock drafts right now in my phone, from the first round, second round, third round to the first round, all of that and more. Okay, but guess what? I'm all these things and more, but most importantly, I am your host, Kale. You already know how these things are about to go. This might be somewhat of a long episode. Okay, I do have my tinfoil hat on, but I need you to walk with me. Okay, on three, 1, 2, 3, let's lock in. All right, folks, let's just get into the meat and potatoes of everything that is going on in the league right now. So, yeah, I know I'm not supposed to be the person that, reports on these type of things, but I have to because it just caught my attention. And there's so much that I have to say about this that's connected to this and whatnot, which is a little bit crazy because both of the two topics actually connect with one another. But, yeah, let's just get into it. So apparently, according to an insider, Ryan Burr, shout out to him, the Steelers have inquired about the availability of Trevor Lawrence. And yeah, yeah, that's all I'll say first. Okay, let's get into all the financials and whatnot, and then we'll get into everything else. Okay, because this is probably one of the most dumbest moves and dumbest ideas anybody could possibly think of. This is something that you would do when you're on Madden franchise and there's a favorite player that you really like that you just want on your team. This is that type of stuff. Okay, so when we break things down, okay, with Justin, not Justin, I don't know why I'm thinking about Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence's contract. Okay, so for starters, before we go any further, he has a no trade clause. So if he was to be traded, he dictates where he wants to go, not the team. Now, when we break things down moving forward, okay, his cap hit this year is 17 million. Next year, 24 million. The year after that, 35 million. The year after that, 47 million. Okay, and then the 2 years after that is 78.5 and then 74.8 million. Those are his cap hits. Okay, but when we break things down by the cap, okay, his base salary this year is only 2 million. His cap hit is 17 million, as I just said. His base salary for next year is 2 million, and then the year after that is 6 million, and then the year after that is 11 million, and in the last 2 years it is 50 million and then 53.3 million. So this is what I will say about this. This is a very bad decision, okay? And the reason why I say that is because it'll be one thing if the team was completely built right. There's not a lot of holes on the team. All you really needed was just a quarterback, right? Then this is when you make that type of move, okay? But this isn't a type of roster that you know give up a first or a second or maybe two firsts in the second and the third or whatever the case may be to get someone like a Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence does not move the needle. It does not make you closer to being a contender. It does not move the needle to the point where, oh, you're in the same realm of, the Super Bowl caliber teams. It doesn't. I'm sorry. I'm just being honest with you. Trevor Lawrence has not lived up to that first overall pick. Okay? He's overpaid and he's just not that good, folks. He's just not that good. When we look at this, right? Because I decided to do a comparison. I did a comparison between Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields, and then Trevor Lawrence and Russell Wilson. Okay, according to Pro Football Reference. Shout out to them. So when we look at things, Trevor Lawrence had a lower completion percentage against Justin Fields. Trevor Lawrence's completion percentage was 60.6, while Justin Fields was 65.8. Granted, Trevor Lawrence threw more touchdowns, okay, at 11, but he also threw 7 picks, whereas Justin Fields only threw 5 touchdowns and 1 pick. We all know because after, I think it was either the Colts or the Raiders game, they benched him, then they put in Russell Wilson, okay? But when we look things with Trevor Lawrence and Russell Wilson, okay, still, it's the same thing. Russell Wilson has a higher completion percentage at 63.7%. He also has more touchdowns and less interceptions than Trevor Lawrence. So I say all that to say this. If a 36-year-old quarterback in Russell Wilson, who by all means do I not want to be on the Steelers this upcoming season, and Justin Fields, who is still trying to find his way within the league, have better completion percentage and somewhat better seasons than what Trevor Lawrence has had, then why would you want to make a move for someone like a Trevor Lawrence? And granted, I understand that as a GM, you are supposed to evaluate every single position on your team and figure out what positions need to be fixed and what positions are fine. I understand that. But at the same time, you are not going to inquire about someone like this if you have not had the thought or the idea to go after someone like a Trevor Lawrence. But at the same time, shortly after this report came out, and then I don't know why I'm thinking about NASA. An ESPN reporter, Michael DiRocco, was told by a Jaguars league source, and I quote, "There's no chance that this could happen." He also said that this move was quote unquote ridiculous. So either one or two things is true. Either the Jaguars league source that told Michael DiRocco that there was no chance and that, it's ridiculous is lying, or somebody else within the Jaguars front office or whatever told Ryan Burr something just to put something out. One of the two. But the fact of the matter is, the Steelers are not in a position to make this type of move. You cannot make this type of move when, one, you have a left tackle who is very inconsistent and really has not lived up to the hype of being, drafted as high as he was, and you have a rookie right tackle who is coming off of a major injury. On top of that, you do not have a number one wide receiver. So why in the world would you want to potentially trade for any quarterback? And this is for any of the quarterbacks that people have, will throw out, whether it be Matthew Stafford or Kirk Cousins or anybody else. Why would you want to trade for anybody if you know that the team is not set for them to be successful? And on top of that, you do not have a coaching staff that would help them and bring the best out of them. Why would you make this type of move? Again, I say all that to say this. Buckle up, Steelers fans, because this is going to be a long offseason, okay? Because the quarterback position is about to be a carousel, okay? You have people within the Steelers front office that are torn between the both of them. And then you also have a section of people within the front office that doesn't want neither one of them. So there's so much discourse right now on what exactly the Steelers want to do with their quarterback that you don't know exactly how things are going to go. And granted, I understand Justin Fields, you got to give him a chance. You really do have to give him a chance. You really, really, really do. But the fact of the matter is, either one or two things are going to happen this offseason. Either they're going to make a trade for somebody, or they're just going to stick with Justin Fields or Russell Wilson. One of those things are going to happen. Now, am I going to be the person that has a tinfoil hat on and say, when there's smoke, there's flames? Yes, I will be today. Because you're just not about to go to Trevor Lawrence. You're not about to call for Trevor Lawrence. You're just not about to do that. No, 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 no. You're not about to do that. Keep your eye on this story. Because I feel like there's a good chance that if things go left with the Justin Fields, negotiations, as well as the Russell Wilson negotiations, I think they would spin the block on someone like a Trevor Lawrence. I think they would even spin the block on someone maybe like a Kellen Moore. I would not be surprised by the end of this week another report comes out that they have inquired about Kellen Moore, or they've inquired about, I don't know, Kirk Cousins or Dak Prescott or any of those guys. I would not be surprised. But this is what happens when you go through that transition period from your franchise quarterback to finding your next franchise quarterback. Now let's get into this whole Aaron Rodgers debacle, because once again, we have to talk about him, unfortunately. But according to multiple insiders, Aaron Rodgers is set to be released from the New York Jets, okay? Now let's get into these statements that have been put out by both Aaron Glenn and their GM, Darren Mogi, as well as their owner, Woody Johnson, okay? So let's do the first one with Aaron Glenn and the GM. And I quote, "Last week, we met with Aaron and shared that our intention was to move in a different direction at quarterback. It was important to have this discussion now to provide clarity and enable each of us the proper time to plan for our respective futures. We want to thank him for the leadership, passion, and dedication he brought to the organization and wish him success moving forward," end quote. That's from Aaron Glenn in the GM, okay? Now, when we look at Woody Johnson's quote, maybe a little bit similar, maybe a little bit different. I don't know. You are the only person that can, decipher that. So here goes. And I quote, "I personally want to thank Aaron for his time at the New York Jets. His arrival in 2023 was met with unbridled excitement, and I will forever be grateful that he chose to join us to continue his Hall of Fame career. From day one, he embodied all that it meant to be a New York Jet, embraced our fans, and immersed himself in our city. That is what I will remember most when I look back at his time here. He will always be welcome, and I wish him only the best in whatever he chooses to do next," end quote. And that's from Woody Johnson. Now, when we look at the financials with this, okay, the Jets will still have to take a $49 million dead cap hit, right? But most likely, this is going to be a post-June 1st designation, meaning that the $23.5 million cap hit will be carried until June 1st. However, when it drops to $14 million, the Jets will save $9.5 million in cap, but will take a $35 million cap hit in 2026. So either way, they are still facing some type of backlash. Now, they do have multiple options where they could, break it down so that they can, stretch out the cap hit just so they don't take it all directly, or they can just take it all directly and then you don't have to worry about it, moving forward. But all in all, this was expected. There's not a whole lot really to say about this, but I don't want to be the person that told you so, but I told you so, okay? I called this from the minute that this happened, that this was not going to end well. And it wasn't even to be super negative or whatever. It was just a simple fact that someone like an Aaron Rodgers, at times you have to question how much is he committed to the game. Whereas someone like a Tom Brady or Peyton Manning, you never have to question that. When Tom went to Tampa Bay, he was committed. You want to know how committed he was? They were doing practice at the park during COVID, during the height of COVID, okay? Peyton Manning, he was fully committed when he went to the Broncos. Fully committed with it. So I say all that to say this. I feel like there are so many bridges that have been burned with Aaron Rodgers that I think teams view him more as a liability more than an asset. And granted, I understand, sometimes we can burn our own bridges and we can definitely mess up, certain relationships that we have. But come on, man. Come on. It's starting to look like, you might just be just a backup quarterback at this point. And granted, I understand. Some people will say, well, he didn't have a good offensive coordinator, or he didn't have this, or didn't have that. They got all of his receivers. They got some of his boys. They did everything. They even got the person that used to work with him in Green Bay and made him the offensive coordinator. They did all of that. And guess what? It still was not enough. I think at this point, I think Aaron has to have a real conversation with himself and possibly just, say, you know what? It's time. I understand, your body tells you one thing, but your mind says something else. But at this point, just walk away. Walk away from the game of football. You have nothing else to prove in the game of football. You will go down in history as one of the best quarterbacks of all time. And you will go down in history as well as one of the greatest throwers of the ball. Not to mention, you're going to get a gold jacket. So there's no need for you to continue to keep playing when we all know daggone well you're really not committed to this thing. So I say all that to say this. At this point, the options for Aaron Rodgers is very slim. So for any Steelers fan out there, because this goes back to the Steelers as well, any Steelers fan out there that says, oh, we should try to get Aaron Rodgers. No. Because you know why? Guess what's going to happen? Any rifts, any problems, any disagreements that are happening within the locker room, guess what? It's going to be made for everybody to know. Because why? You're on the Pat McAfee show. And if I'm not mistaken, I think there was a report from, I think, either Diana Rossini or somebody that said that one of the factors for the Jets cutting Aaron Rodgers was because he was on the Pat McAfee show. And they didn't want him on the Pat McAfee show anymore. So at this point, just be a media personality at this point. Just be a media personality that's on the Pat McAfee show, every Tuesday or whenever, and just go from there. Okay? Because you trying to go to another team, no. Granted, I understand he can throw the ball really good. It looks amazing. Great. But guess what? Not on the Steelers. Okay? If we make this move for Aaron Rodgers, I'm telling you, I will go on a whole hour rant about this team and the state of this team. Oh, and guess what? Apparently, another bombshell with this whole Trevor Lawrence situation. I thought we were done talking about it, but clearly we're not. Apparently, according to Noah Strackbine from All Steelers Talk, there has been a direct source within the Steelers front office that has said, and I quote, simply not true. So I'm saying all that to say this, folks. Somebody is lying. Somebody is lying. Why in the world, of all the fan bases in the world, you could have done this to the Cardinals, you could have done this to the Cowboys, you could have done this to the Saints, you could have done this to the Giants, you could have done it with anybody else, but you decided to do it with the one team that's going through some foolishness right now with their quarterback position. Why? Why would you do that? Why would you do that? This is exactly what the senior Pittsburgh Steelers source said, okay? And I quote, "There has never been, nor was there at any time, implied or directly an imposition about Trevor Lawrence." Woo! And this is exactly why, folks, sometimes you got to be careful with your sources because somebody's lying. I don't know who it is because I don't have, the direct knowledge with any of these folks. Maybe I will, soon, but somebody lying. Somebody lying. You know what? I'll make a phone call. Once this episode is out, I'll make a phone call with somebody, try to see if I can get some inside information. I think I might have an insider, with the Cleveland Browns and whatnot. Shoot, I might even have an insider with the 49ers. Who knows? Hey, I might even be the person that tells you where T. Higgins is going to go before everybody else does. Who knows? You just can't make this stuff up, man. You cannot make this stuff up. Somebody is lying. I'm going to keep on saying this until the cows come home. Think about it. Yes, I have my tinfoil hat on. Yes, it's a new tinfoil hat on as well. But let's get into a more serious topic, and that is Travis Kelce contemplating retirement. And granted, retirement, the retirement talk as a whole is not something that you can be like super like funny about and whatnot. Sometimes you have to take it, super seriously. But based off of what I heard, because I actually watched the episode, you can tell by Travis Kelce's demeanor that he's just like he's tired, he's beat up. For him to say what he said definitely lets you know like he has more years behind him than ahead of him. I would not be surprised if he plays one more season, they win the championship, and he just rides off into the sunset. But let's just get into the quote that he put out, okay? So this is what he says in that quote. I know everybody wants to know whether or not I'm playing next year, and right now I'm just kicking everything down the road. I'm kicking every can I can down the road. I'm not making any crazy decisions, but right now the biggest thing is just being there for my teammates and being there for my coaches. Understanding that there's a lot that's going into this thing. The fact that we keep going to these AFC championships and Super Bowls, that means I'm playing an extra 3 games more than everybody else in the entire league. That's a lot of wear and tear on your body. It's a lot of time spent in the building. That process can be grueling. It can weigh on you. It can make you better, and it can drive you crazy at the same time. Right now, it was one of the things where it was driving me crazy this year. It happens as you tail off towards the back 9 of your career. That's a weird thing. As you see yourself or feel yourself not having the success that you once used to have, it's a tough pill to swallow. On top of that, to not be there in the biggest moments, knowing your team is counting on you, those are extremely hard things. It's just a tough reality. I'm not half-assing it. I'm fully here for them and I think I can play. It's just whether or not I'm motivated or if it's the best decision for me as a man, as a human, as a person to take on that responsibility, end quote. Now that is a lot for what he said, but he's being honest and he's being transparent. It does take a toll on your body, especially the position that you play, where you are going to get hit at some point. You are going to take a big hit from somebody. And so this is the price of going deep into the playoffs. Granted, you get to play a little bit longer. Granted, you do have a chance to hold up on Lombardi. But at the end of the day, as you get older, it takes longer for you to recover, from each and every season. And so Travis Kelce is letting it be known, like, listen, I'm here for my teammates. I'm here for everybody else. But right now, I'm not really thinking about that. When the time comes for a decision, we'll cross that bridge when we cross that bridge. And I'm 100%, in agreement with him. But if he does retire, he's going to get a gold jacket. He's going into the Hall of Fame. He is one of the greatest tight ends of all time. I'm not saying he's the greatest, but I'm saying he's one of the greatest, okay? Because in my mind, I still think it's Gronk, okay? Just being honest here. If you guys saw the run that Gronk was on in his prime before all those injuries started to stack up, unguardable, okay? This dude was doing it all. They would have safeties come down in the box to try to see if they can just stop him. Still didn't work. But at the same time, I do believe, and I'll continue to say it, if Travis Kelce does decide to play again, I think this will probably be the last year. I don't think he's going to be playing, another 2 or 3 or 5 years. I just don't see it. But we have to talk about somebody that's going back to the Bayou, and that is Kellen Moore. That's right, folks. Kellen Moore is now the Saints head coach. I said it. Kellen, don't do it. Don't do it, Kellen. Don't do it. And guess what you did? You decided, hey, I'm still going to do it, though. And he did it. And now he's the head coach for the Saints. Probably one of the worst jobs you could have ever taken to be a first-time head coach. You're going to take this burning pile of garbage? You're going to do this? Brother, either you're a magician or you do voodoo. Because they are going to have to do some serious sorcery in order to turn this team around. But let's get into the quote that Saints owner Gail Benson has put out. And I quote, "At the start of the interview process, it was important to find a head coach who was the right fit for the New Orleans Saints organization. Through the search process, it became clear that Kellen is the right person to help us reestablish a winning program and culture that our fans are accustomed to and have come to accept. I would also like to thank Darren Rizzi for his service as an interim head coach and leading our team this past season. I am truly grateful for him, end quote. And this comes from Catherine Terrell from ESPN. This comes from her article. Shout out to her. This was a horrible move. Okay? Horrible, 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 horrible move. And the reason why I say that is because usually when you become a head coach, you want to have a little bit of flexibility, right? You got a lot of cap space. You got, a high draft pick. You got something that you can build off of, right? There is nothing that you can really build off of with the Saints. There's uncertainty with Derek Carr. The roster is going through somewhat of a rebuild, okay? What exactly do you have that you can say, hey, this is something that we can build off of? Nothing. Chris Olave probably does not want to be there anymore. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's other players that don't want to be a part of a rebuild as well. So what exactly do you have? Not to mention, you have no cap space. Because why? All of those years of continuing to push money down the road and push money down the road and keep on kicking the can down the road. And now guess what? The can's right there. And it's time for you to pay up. So now you are going to have to wait until your books are cleaned. Then you can try to see if you can finagle some people to, come in and, play for you and whatnot. Unless you're going to get Kenny Pickett and you're going to give Kenny Pickett 30 plus million. So what exactly made you think that this was a great opportunity? I would have waited and just stayed with the Eagles for one more year. And then by then you would have a more clear-cut, idea of what destinations you will want to go to. Not just choose one of the worst jobs that everybody has said that it is a horrible job to take just because of the situation that they're in right now. You're going to have to go through a hard rebuild with this team. You have to figure out what you're going to do at quarterback. You have to figure out what you're going to do at, receiver. Running back, you already know that's fine because you got Alvin Kamara. And then you have to figure out what you're going to do with defense. Is Cam Jordan going to want to stay there for a rebuild? I don't think so. Is DeMario Davis going to want to stay there for a rebuild? I don't think so. Is Tyrann Mathieu going to want to stay there? I don't think so. So you have a lot of decisions that you are going to have to make moving forward. And then not to mention, you're bringing on Brandon Staley. Brandon Staley? Really? That guy? That guy. The guy that choked away a playoff game against the Jaguars? That guy? Come on, please. Give me a break. I would not be surprised within the first 2 years, there are insiders that are talking about, various situations about Kellen Moore and how bad his coaching is or how bad the situation is and how they want out. I would not be surprised. But on to the final topic, and that is James Cook wanting $15 million a year. So recently he was on IG Live, and on the pinned comment, it just said $15 million a year. Now, granted, I understand that, he definitely wants to get paid, and that's perfectly fine, but we have to look at everything from a broad perspective, okay? So when we look at it, he's had back-to-back seasons of 1,000 rushing yards, which is great. But this year, this was his best year by far, okay? He had 1,009 rushing yards. He averaged 4.9 rushing yards per carry, and he had 16 touchdowns. 16 touchdowns. Compared to last year, he only had 2 touchdowns. James Cook is a very productive running back, but paying him $15 million, I don't know. Do I think they'll probably try to get as close as they can to maybe 15? I don't think he's, in the same conversation as a Saquon Barkley or a Christian McCaffrey or a Alvin Kamara or a Jonathan Taylor. I don't think he's in that same tier. Now, is he in that maybe second to third tier? Now we have a legitimate conversation that we have to have. But he's not in that first tier of running backs. Now the Bills have options. They can franchise tag him. They can, do all different types of tags. They can try to see and, maybe come to a mutual understanding with like a good number that benefits everybody. There's different ways that they can do about this, right? But when we look at Spot Rack's, market value for James Cook, It's a 4-year, $40.8 million deal, which is around 10.2 million a year, which is, relatively good. Now, do I think he maybe deserves a little bit more? Possibly. You could probably bump it up to maybe about 11, maybe 12. But either way we look at it, one or two things are going to happen. Either they're going to give him the 15, but they're going to structure it in a way to where he basically gets, at least 50 to 60% of the money up front, or they're going to try to backload it. Or they'll just let him just hit free agency and they'll just draft one, because you have people like Omarion Hampton, Bishal Tootin, Caleb Johnson, Devin Neal, Quinshawn Junkins, Trevion Henderson. You have a slew of different types of running backs in this upcoming draft that you can get. So the Bills do have options if they do not want to pay James Cook $15 million. They don't have to do it. It's an option. But I'm going to end this episode here. If you guys like what you are listening, please, 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 please like, share, subscribe, turn the notification bell on, leave a comment down below, download the episodes, leave a 5-star review if you can on anywhere and everywhere that you can listen to podcasts, okay? We are available on RSS feed, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, you name it, we are there, okay? For my YouTube people, Football Junkies Pod, okay? Football Junkies Pod. When you go on the YouTube, we have a link tree. When you click on that link tree, it has all the places that we have Football Junkies content, whether that be on the Twitter, the TikTok, the Instagram, Blue Sky, you name it, all that stuff is in the link tree, okay? Now, for my Twitter people, GM Kale, okay? GM Kale, Kaile, all right? That's where I do a lot of, debates with, various, Steelers fans and, other fan bases from other people. I sometimes, ask questions, with various journalists and whatnot. So follow me on there. You could also follow me on Instagram as well, football_junkies pod. Okay, football_junkies pod. Junkies pod is not what? It is together, not spaced. Okay, it is together, not spaced. Blue Sky. Same thing with Twitter, GM Kale, okay, GM Kale. I'm going to start posting more stuff on there as well. Definitely want to start tapping into Blue Sky. Just really haven't had the chance to really, understand it and really learn it and whatnot. But for my TikTok people, Football Junkies Pod, okay, Football Junkies Pod. We're going to start rolling out some clips, folks. We're going to start rolling up some clips. And best believe we're about to start our series with the whole offseason for all 32 teams. So guess what? Every single team will be discussed, okay? We're going over, free agency, your cap situation, your draft situation, all those different things and more, okay? We're going to go through a deep dive with every single team, 32 teams. So stay tuned for that. But as always, I hope I gave you guys the fix that you guys need. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys so much. Make sure you guys, leave a 5-star review for your boy. Please. I definitely appreciate it. Please leave a comment, on the YouTube or the Instagram or the Twitter. Just interact with the content, please. But as always, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys so much. This is your GM Kale signing out. Peace and love.